Word Hurdle, they're gone. And one other one, three of them.
I think you're on, Ron.
Oh, got it.
All right. I think we are. Gotta check and see this thing. Yes, we are live,
We are live.
finally. I'm here with Ian and Chuck. And hopefully we'll get Mark coming in, but he's having some Zoom issues.
Kevin or Mark? Mark.
Mark.
Hmm.
Um, well, this time we're going to talk about the year 1974 and five of our favorite albums from that year. And I had a tough time picking my five because there was so much more that I wanted to talk about. But if we did more than five, I think we would be here for a very long time. And not many people want to hear us all yapping for hours upon hours. You know, but I figure five is a good number, and I'm going to let Chuck start up.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. So 1974, just to get perspective, I was a 13-year-old lad and I actually listened to music in real time, but making the transition from grammar school and listening to AM radio to FM radio, I guess I was pretty much switched over by then. So these are albums that I actually listened to that year. I'm not going to do ones that I love maybe more now after going backwards. So let's do that this time. That way I can narrow it down really good. So the first one I want to do is, let's see if it works today. Supertramp, Crime of the Century. All right. That is an album that every song on it is like, to me, it's just a hit. I mean, you know what I mean? Just, you don't want to skip any. I mean, there's one song, if everyone was listening, that's the one I might not listen to the most, but the other seven songs are just like, can't pick one. They're so good. So that's my only story about that is 13, going to my buddy's house around the corner. He was the guy that got all the albums first. And of course, that's where I would learn everything. And all the ones I'm talking about today, pretty much, he'd be over there after his girlfriend left, and we just spin records that he had bought. And Supertramp, of course, was one of them. And that was a great find. I'm starting with this one because I think from bottom to, no, it's not probably not true. I got another one, but from bottom to top, this one it's hard to beat. So, anyways, that's my first one.
Very good. My first album, King Crimson Red.
Yep.
I'm a little younger than Chuck, so none of these albums were listened to at the time. At the time, I was in about 10, and I was into Sweet and T-Rex and the like. So I discovered all of these later. Uh, King Crimson are one of my absolutely favorite bands, and this is my favorite era of them. The three albums from Lark's Tongue through Red are all superb. This one happens to be the one from 1974. Standout track on the album is probably Starless on there that they always play live, is phenomenal track over the last few years. So King Crimson, Red.
I'm for that one, even Ian. That's a great
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah. All those. I got two that just got off my list.
But
There you
I
go.
get it in before you there, Ron.
That's why he has
Yeah.
10.
Well, my first choice is David Bowie, Diamond Dogs.
Oh, good.
Um, I got into Bowie in the mid to late '90s. I obviously heard uh, his radio hits in the '80s, but it just never resonated with me. But then when I worked at a record store and they played a little bit of the stuff, and I just my friend was really into all these kind of eclectic stuff. I mean, he had more of the. I mean, he listened to just about every kind of genre. He was more rooted in New York hardcore punk and metal and stuff like that. But he got me into Bowie. He told me, he said, you got to check this out. I mean, you like some of this hard rock stuff, but if you want to hear something that's uh, kind of glammy, you know, you check out Bowie. And this one here, I knew the song title track, Diamond Dogs, and then Rebel Rebel. But then I had this CD years ago, and I got rid of it foolishly, and then I just got it back recently, and then I started listening to it all the way through, and I'm like going, wow, there's honestly not a bad track on it. It kind of follows a similar sound to Aladdin Sane in a way.
Yeah.
And I think after this, he kind of went completely changed directions again. I mean, that's the one thing I noticed with Bowie is that he literally is a chameleon. He just goes, changes with it whenever he kind of felt like it. And because, I mean, he may have like a couple albums that are the same, and then he kind of gets tired of that and then moves on to something else. And Diamond Dogs I think is one of his, it's kind of grown to be one of my favorites of his and of 1974.
That's my favorite era, I think, of David
Yeah.
Bowie too. I mean, a lot of people like the
And-
Berlin Trio, but I like that too. But I really like his glam phase.
Well, it's more raw. That's the thing. It's more rock based, and the Berlin trilogy. You know, he's gotten into more of the ambient,
Right.
You know, more soundscapes type of vibe. And this one,
Oh, that
I
was
think
my.
this was
Go ahead,
his
sorry.
last. I think that was his last one that he did, where it was more kind of rock based. Then he started. He had some rock songs and stuff, but he started experimenting.
You like him, Ian?
I've never really got into him all that much. I admire his work, but
Okay.
I think the only thing I own by him is a greatest hits album.
Okay.
So he just never scratched the itch for me.
That was one of my reserved albums that I had, like you do, Ron. So you got that one covered. So my next one's going to be, and like I said, this is not a prog show because back then, so I was, like I said, 13. So the next year, 75 is when I really got into music. So this album, I just listened to the crap out of, but I went back after the one in 75, and I see if you can see this. That's Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so basically, Toys in the Attic came out. My brother brought that home. We were both playing. I was in middle school, but he was playing baseball in high school, and he brought that home. I ended up taking it away from him. I think I listened to it more than he did. I just thought that was the greatest thing. And then, of course, once you hear that, you got to go back. And on Toys in the Attic, so I was probably a year late to it, but it was, every song on it. Even if you don't like Aerosmith because you get, the 80s and they sold out or whatever, went hits.
Right.
But if you go back to those 3 albums in a row, Get Your Wings, Toys in the Attic, and Rocks, it's hard to beat a trilogy like that. That is just a great trilogy right there. So if you are newer to Aerosmith and all you've heard is Love in the Elevator and all these other songs, go all the way back to those 3 albums, you guys. It's the best. It is really good.
Oh yeah.
That's my second one.
I think that's when I think they started kind of softening when they got into drug rehab.
Yeah, you draw the line, was mediocre, and from there just they went nowhere, and then they came back with the Big Bang with more of a formula, with the hit formula.
Yeah, it got more polished.
Oh yeah, not better rockers than those 3 albums.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't talk about the songs. I don't really need to, I guess, but I mean, Train Kept a Rolling's a great cover, and then when they still sing, I saw them in concert a couple years ago. They still sing Seasons of Weather, one of the greatest slow, just great songs, just atmospheric songs. Same old song, and they played Lord of the Thighs also. Not that you know what that means, but anyways, that's it for me. Go ahead, Ian.
My second one is Hatfield and the North, their debut album. They're a Canterbury band from the UK. I got into the Canterbury scene in the middle of the 80s when I started really exploring prog. They're one of the main 2 or 3 bands I would always go to when listening to Canterbury music. Them, Caravan, National Health. Classic lineup of the band, made up of Phil Miller on guitar, Dave Stewart on keyboards, who really has the sound that makes the band. The fuzz keyboard he plays really drives that. Richard Sinclair on bass and vocals, who obviously was also in Caravan, and Pip Pyle on drums. They only did 2 albums in the classic period, disappeared. It was pretty much at the end of the classic prog era, and they were one of the bands that kind of disappeared when all of that went away. But this is probably a top 10 all-time album for me. Hatfield of the North debut album.
I've actually listened to that, Ian, and that's another one that I like that too. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's so many that I'm sure you can
Great
probably
era. So many good
find at
albums
least-
from 74.
find at least 20.
Yeah, but well, I'm just saying with Ian and my taste being a lot different.
We don't cross very often.
But we are this year a little bit.
If we go back this far, Chuck, we cross a lot this far back.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. All right, Ronnie.
All right, my next one is Camel Mirage.
Yeah. That's
Excellent.
when I would have gone. That's when I would have gone back.
Yeah, it was on my short list.
I got into this in the mid '90s. I went to this record store down in when I was living in Southern California, in Redondo Beach,
Mhm.
and the guy, it's just a small little, could barely hold maybe 1,000 CDs in there, yeah, and the guy was playing this on over the speakers, and I was like going, "What is this?" And at the same time, when I was at that store, he also played that Eloy Ocean. So same thing. It just like hit me. It was like, what is this? And I never heard of this band before. And all of a sudden, and I go, who's this? And he says, Campbell. And he goes, oh, okay. I never heard of him before. And the guy says, well, he stopped the player, put it in the case, and he says, you need to buy it. And I said, yeah. And I said, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
And so, I mean, he was really good with, he could figure out after a while of you coming into his store what your tastes are. So he knew what you want. And when I got this, I was like going, got home, listened to it on my CD player a ton. And then recently, I think in the past 10 years, whenever they did the remasters, I got the remastered version of it. I know I had a friend of mine, he bought, it was like a live box set of like a shit ton of CDs, I think like 40 from
Wow.
every
show,
almost every concert that they did. And I mean, I think that's for a diehard fan.
Yeah.
But if you little more than a casual fan, this is for me. I mean, I got a chance to see them in 2002 when the Flower Kings. Oh, there he is. There's Mr. Mark. When they opened up, the Flower Kings opened up for them, and at the Troubadour in West Hollywood. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. I think your record store guy knew you were like a baby progger.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, at
Camel's
that
an
point,
introductory band, isn't it?
Yes, it's very good.
Let me open the door
I
to
love
you,
it.
dear.
Yeah.
well, at that time, that was, I want to say that was 94 or 95, because in 93, I went to go see the first Prog Fest in Los Angeles.
Right.
And so that was like my introduction to that world. And after that, it was the end. I was hooked.
Yeah.
I think I've just got the 3, or maybe 3 or 4 of their albums. The classic 3, Snow Goose and Moon Madness, along with Mirage.
Yeah.
Those 3 are fantastic.
And you got access to the whole catalog, of course. Like we all
I'm
do.
sure I have, yes.
All right, Mark
Hey,
just
Mark.
dropped by.
There?
Hey,
You gonna,
didn't
you
even
got,
know it was still trying, but it must have downloaded while I
yeah,
was in the background.
he's
While
on my
you're doing
bottom
so.
right. He's on my bottom right. What about you guys? He's below
Yep.
me.
All right,
So
so we
just
are
just keep
now what?
going. I'm at me
We're on
now.
number. Yeah, go back to you, and then we'll
Yeah,
Mark can do what, two of them. Talk
yeah,
about two of them.
Okay.
that's fine. Well, my third one is going to be one that someone's going to cover because if they don't, you're crazy. And that is this one, Genesis
all right.
Lamb. You have that one, Ian?
Nope, it's on my
Oh,
short list, but it didn't make
okay.
my top list.
Oh, okay. So basically, chime in, Mark, when you want. But for me, my story on this was Peter Gabriel, 1975. My buddy I was telling you about gets all the albums. I listened to that album, without Frontiers, whatever, and all those songs, and I just loved them. And he said, "Well, you should try this. You should try his group before he left them." This is how much little I knew at the time. So that's when I went back to listen to the early Genesis album. So I was, about a year or two after they came out too, but pretty much in real time. And of course, after listening to The Lamb was a little harder to listen for me at first, but now it's like it's hard not to say it's not the best one. I don't know. It's hard to say. Whereas Sailing England was, immediate. It was great. Anyways, that's my third one would be Genesis. Everybody knows the story of Rail and just a ton of
Oh,
great
yeah.
songs. Second album, a lot of people complain about the fourth side back in the day, but I like it all. I have no problem with it. So that's my second. Mark, you got anything on that? Feel free.
Well, are we gonna just kind of go to me now at this point? Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I sounding okay? I'm sorry, I didn't get
You
every
sound
sound check.
great.
Okay. So I would say that that was a huge album for me in retrospect. Of course, I mean, I didn't know Prague when I was 8 years old or whatever I was at the time. So, but it was the live version of that is what turned Raina into a Genesis fan. Archives #1, right, which is the live tour of that. And so I just love that album. I remember I used to be like a professional bowler, and I went into a tour, and I got into the bowling alley, and what was playing but the Lamb, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do well. It was a good omen for me on that tour. Stop. So but I love that album, and just like concept, I like there's a track in there that's see, I wasn't prepared to talk about this. Who did Lifeless Packages with Genesis? He Eno wrote that song
Okay.
in conjunction with them, and I just thought that it was just a quirky song that I just loved the melody to, and it just didn't really hadn't seen anything that kind of funny and that I liked before. It was kind of new to me. So that's my thought on the Lamb. So
Mark, you didn't get Kevin Gilbert first and then go back on it, did you?
Kevin Gilbert, what?
You know how Kevin Gilbert, plays.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was your entrance or if you were before that or.
Oh, no. I got it as soon as the CD came out because I became a huge fan of Genesis in '84 with the
Okay.
Mama album. And I loved I was 16. I loved the, Mama and That's All and all this.
Yeah.
I had the lyrics written out for that album, and but I also loved, the proggy stuff, that Driving Last Spike, or not Driving Last Spike. Oh boy. Home by the Sea and second Home by the Sea.
Yeah.
And as I went backwards, I liked every album more.
Yeah.
And they came out backwards.
I got into them. I went to another record store, and I got the cassette of Wind and Wuthering back in 1990.
Right.
And I was like going, at that point, I knew about all the MTV hits, because of all their videos.
Right.
And I wasn't that keen on those. I was like going, oh. And then I heard this, and I was like going, this is the same band.
Yeah.
It's like, and then fast forward to 1994 in Prague Fest, when Kevin Gilbert and his band Giraffe did a condensed version of it live, where he came out and he was listening to I think Invisible Touch, like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he had it in the boombox, and then he looked out at the audience and looked at the thing and threw the boombox in the trash, and then he started off with the Lamb.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's
awesome.
available for purchase, by the way. If people are looking for that, that's the Kevin Gilbert Estate put that out, just so you know.
Oh yeah. Did
Yeah.
they put out the video or just the audio?
No, just the audio.
Yeah, because the video was cut. Because watching him right there, I was like going, "This is cool," and especially to hear it live is like, you got your CD version of the Lamb, and then you got a live version right there in your face.
Right.
It's like it was amazing.
Right.
Since you came in late, Mark, do another.
Okay, I'll do another one.
Second.
Let me just double check. I mean, I believe Autobahn by Kraftwerk is this year, correct?
Close.
No, it's not 74.
No, I know. I'm not saying. I'm saying you're in the ballpark.
Yeah, I think it is. I just double checked it here.
Okay, good.
And I just thought that was such a different take on music for me. It made me appreciate a whole nother genre that got me prepared for, or that reminded me why I like Gary Newman's Cars and a couple other things at the time. So I haven't really gone back to electronic kind of stuff, except for Galahad's kind of 30% electronica, maybe. But I just thought it was really revolutionary at the time, and I really enjoyed the title track. One of those few times where the radio actually played something I liked, my favorite song from the album actually got radio play. So I'll just throw that in there for you, and then we can continue on.
Nice.
Right.
You want me next?
Yep.
Okay. Mike Oldfield, Hergest Ridge, which is his second album he released after the debut Tubular Bells that took the world by storm on the back of the Exorcist movie soundtrack. This is the stuff I like from Oldfield is really those early albums with the sidelong tracks, the pastoral pieces. So Ommadawn, Hergest Ridge, Incantation, that 3-album block. This one, same as usual, part 1 all one side, part 2 all of the other side, but it's classic pastoral Mike Oldfield instrumental rock. It's excellent stuff. That's my second choice.
Nice.
Good
Okay,
choice.
that's good too.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo one of Ian's.
Oh, there you go. I figured.
Red.
Yeah.
Now this one I got into it when I was working at a record store, and the manager was I told the story many times, but the manager was annoyed at me and this other guy always playing thrash metal, and he goes, "Okay, if you want something that's heavy, I got something, but it's different if you can handle it." And I go, "Okay." So when he started playing the song right off, Red, I was like going, I mean, to me, I thought, okay, it had that heavy metal vibe to it, but it wasn't heavy metal, and I was like, I was just floored by the time when they got to the final song, Starless. I was like going, when that stopped, I took it out and I said, I want to buy this CD, please. and I kind of stressed the word please. It was like, so I bought that CD, and I think that was 92, and I was hooked with that band. I went and got all the rest of their stuff, but I have to say, for me personally, my favorite era is the basic Wet and Bruford Fripp lineup with, augmented by, David Cross and Jamie Muir, but the core band.
That's my favorite era, the 72 to 74 era.
Yeah, it's just something about it. It's so powerful. I mean, and something that was really ahead of its time for 1974. Bands didn't catch up to that till almost, some bands didn't catch up into the 90s. I mean, of the weirdest person that cited them as an influence is Kurt Cobain. I'm like going, but then when you go listen to Nirvana's music, you can kind of hear a little bit that was an influence to him. You know, add that with obvious, you know, the punk stuff that he was into, but you heard that, and it was just kind of cool that a mainstream band actually, you know, basically nodded to basically, you know, an obscure band. You know, not many people knew outside of the prog circle who King Crimson was. So that's my third one.
Yeah.
Well,
I would say
really-
the band's favorite era probably too. It seems like they cover that a lot when they do tour.
Yeah.
my two favorite albums by far were Port and that one, Red.
Discipline being close to that too for me.
Yeah.
Discipline's a great album.
Yeah.
Lark's Tongue's my favorite, but Discipline's way up there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So number 4, we got this is another one. So Mark, before you came in, I'm just saying I was switching over from AM radio to FM in 74, and by 75 I was completely over. So a lot of things I found were 75. So not really in real time, but really close. And that's
Right.
this band too, which is a band called Kansas. And they came out with their album in 75 called Mask. And that was my intro. And that album is perfect. So love that. Listening to it spinning over at my little buddy's house down the street, and just, wow, this is fantastic. So of course, again, I went right back, found out what came out before, and they had 2 albums before that. And well, the one Song for America was between these, but obviously this was the first one. This was their, but he goes, can I tell you, bringing it back, Lonely Wind, Alexis, right in a row, just, and then finish with Death of Mother Nature Suite. Just a great album. Fantastic. I know one of our listeners really loves this. It's shout out to Dennis. He really likes this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Death of Mother Nature Suite is one of those songs that sends shivers up my spine. You know,
Cool.
it just resonates with me. So
Cool.
that's a good choice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love that one too. I think that you know, the whole you got a gun and Bible thing and a piece of artwork that he saw in somewhere, right? In a government building, I believe, is where he saw that at, and it turned into it. You know, definitely check out their documentary. It's really good. It came with purchase of a ticket to the show if you had a slightly upgraded ticket. Can't remember what it's called. Do you happen to remember, Raina, what it's called? Okay, it's something about, I can't remember. Out of nowhere, maybe would be, I think, what it was called. And
It's on YouTube.
it's probably on YouTube too. And yeah, so I highly recommend that album. Of course, the beginning of American prog, basically. So, I guess I'll go on to me. I guess, is that okay? Is that
Yeah.
Brett?
Sure.
So what did I have? So I have one that you guys won't have. It was Billy Joel's Street Life Serenader, actually. I believe is that the, let me just make sure I got it right here. Yeah, Street Life Serenade. And I just love that album. It's another band that I found, you know, I started getting into music in 83, 84. I bought a CD player in 84 when they were $400 for a CD player. And this is another album. I went backwards. I went from Genesis, I went from Mama backwards, and from Billy Joel, I went from Glass Houses backwards. So because that's how they came out. They came out in backwards order if you wanted to buy it a CD. And the Street Life Serenader, the title track is great. Los Angelitos, another good one. A little bit. Root Beer Rag was amazing, and I fell in love with that because of the live shows. He does a great version of that, and it has Souvenir, some different interesting songs. And I thought he was very, you know, it's obvious, you know, whenever anything is happening in his life, it shows up on an album. Whether he's dating Christy Brinkley and comes out with a song called Christy Lee or Uptown Girl, or if he's doing drugs, you know, like the street name for a drug he was doing was called Captain Jack, and there's a song about that, and Roberta and Zanzibar. These are all things, you know, exactly what's going on in his lifetime. It was another instance where I felt like I got to know him better. with Streetlight Serenader in 1974.
I think the next album was where he got huge right after that one, I think.
Yeah, is that The Stranger after that? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, Stranger.
So, yeah, and there's some of those songs are live on Songs in the Attic, and there's great versions as well. So The Entertainer, especially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, my fourth one is Tangerine Dream. I think it's pronounced Fadra.
Mm.
It's around their fifth album, and really when they started going into the Berlin School electronica, the repeat pattern, all of the synthesizers. It was the first one they released on Virgin. Classic lineup of Frosch, Frack, Brauman. I got heavily into this band. This was the first of the albums I bought from them. You can pretty much go up and down their catalog. They're a very consistent band, and they've released a ton of music out there. They've got mountains of CDs. The earlier stuff's a little more experimental, a bit more noise based, but all of the Berlin School ones, there's a great run of albums from Fadra forward.
Yeah, I got they put out a little box set.
Yeah,
The Virgin Years. I got the first one because my
Search
friend
for Hades was the
Yeah,
box.
my friend.
Or am I thinking of another box set of theirs?
It's a different box set. It's called the
Okay.
Virgin Years. It was 74 to 78.
Yeah.
And my friend told me, he said, you really got to get this. And he kept on bugging me. And so I put it on my wish list, and I was just watching the price. And the thing got down to $15. And I'm like, going, okay, I'll take a chance for $15.
I have the Search for Hades box set, which is a ton of the live material from around there. A lot of the there's probably about 14 CDs in there of live material right the way through that era. Wonderful stuff.
That band, for me, I have to be in a certain mood.
Oh, yeah.
To listen to, I just can't go and go, oh, I want to listen to them today.
It's definitely in a zone type of music.
Yeah. All right. My fourth one is Queen 2.
Oh.
Very good.
This was another band that I got into in the 80s. I bought the Queen Greatest Hits on cassette, and I listened to it, and then I had a lot of the songs on there, and I had to explore them beyond this Greatest Hits. I thought the Greatest Hits was just a little glimpse into what this band was all about. So I got into this stuff, and when I heard Queen 2, and still to this date, Queen 2 is my go-to Queen album. This is, if I want to listen to Queen, I always go to this. I think I listened to this 100 or so times more than any of the other albums. And it's just pretty cool. It's split up originally on LP, the white side and the black side. The white side was primarily songs that Brian May wrote, and the black side was Freddie. And they said that a lot of the songs on the black side were kind of almost autobiographical for Freddie, using metaphors for how people viewed how he was, because, we weren't sure was he bisexual? Was he gay? And to me, it didn't really matter because, that voice, rock music, that is the voice that, it's just so amazing. So it was just basically a lot of metaphors for what he was going through through acceptance and whatnot. And it's just amazing. If I could ever sing, this is an album that I would probably sing all the way through, if I could sing. I can't, and I don't, at my age, I don't think I'm going to would ever get to do that, because he hit some high notes, him and Roger. It's like he goes to a certain level and the Roger bumps it up even further. And it's like you hear this voice, and you hear later on Freddie's voice gets a little more seasoned, and people are saying, he gets better. But I like the voice here. It's a very youthful voice, and then of course later in the year they put out Sheer Heart Attack. But this is mine.
Well,
Number
speaking,
4.
one thing about being old, Ron, is that we lived through that era, and it's just
Yeah,
it's amazing. Well, I'm saying even me over you guys, just the fact that I was, in the 70s, and it was just amazing time. You thought this was the way it always was. I didn't realize how special those years were until,
Right.
Everything later on now that we're older. Anyways, it's funny you said that one because I wanted to do Queen also, but I also kept the other one in reserve. So, because they both meant a lot to me that year. So here's the other
Yeah.
one, Sheer Heart Attack.
Yeah.
I would go with the one Ron, Queen too, because it's very proggy. It's like the proggiest thing they've ever did. But
Yeah.
White Queen, Black Queen, all that. But this one was the one that was my gateway because again, it got in 73 or 74, most of 75. But this was a song that was bridging the gap there, Killer Queen. I mean, you couldn't not
Yes.
hear it. So Killer Queen's
yeah.
kind of like my intro to Queen, and then right after that, they came out with Sheer Heart Attack, and then I was sold, on those two. But then, of course, as you get into the rest of the album, you find out how great the album is. I mean, with Brighton Rock and Tenement Monster and all these other great songs on there. But that was another one. So you made it easy for me. I didn't have to choose. So that's
All right,
my
Mark.
5th one.
Okay. So did anybody do Renaissance?
Nope.
Nope.
That's a
Okay,
good-
so I'll go into a little detail anyway. Turn of the Cards, I thought was a great album. It has Mother Russia on there, which is kind of
Yeah.
their song that they're, if you know one song, I guess you know that one. I didn't find out about them until they played Rozfest, probably in like 2000 somewhere. And Fido Xavier, who's a good friend of ours here, loves it's like that and maybe my next album are his 2 favorite bands, and he loves Annie Haslam's voice more than any other vocalist. And he was so excited that his good friend from kindergarten, Valerie Gracious, sings in a similar register as Annie, because for Fido's ears, he doesn't always like female vocals because sometimes it kind of gets him in the ear a little bit too, screechy. So he's very particular about female vocalists, and Annie Haslam is his favorite, and I think Valerie Gracious is his second favorite. So I really like this album and what it's done for progressive rock in general, because there's a lot of fans of this band that turned into progressive rock. I mean, Fido did his first album, it's called Fiction, and it wasn't progressive rock at all. And because of this little, because the internet kind of bubbled up, gave progressive rock this kind of bubble to actually live and breathe in a little bit. And his love of Renaissance, that combined, he decided to make all his albums after that, 313 and Chupacabra and all these other are all based on Annie and Jethro Tull are his two favorite progressive rock bands. So yeah.
Now, what was Fido? I can't think of his second album because that's the one he sent to me when it was.
That is it's white with
Ghost Story.
Ghost Stories, right? Well done.
No, it was before that one.
Okay.
Before that, let me take a look, because I know that he is he had
Because there was
That's
Fiction,
early.
and then Ghost Story was the third one, I think.
let
Could
me
be.
see. I got it right here and one click away.
Because he also sent me Fiction.
Fiendish.
Fiendish.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fiendish.
He sent me those 2 when Fiendish came out, and
Yeah.
I was like going. At first, I was like going, "Oh wow, this the kind of more goth
Yeah.
rock, the first one," and I was like going, "Well, it's kind of different." So I reviewed them, and
Yeah. Well,
pretty
Friction was
cool.
done in 92, and then he kind of went away. And then
Yeah.
in 2003, because of Fiendish, and now it's a little bit progressive. but not really that great. And then I don't want to get into a Fido story, but then Ghost Story gets better. Chupacabra 313, The Great Leap, Doomsday, just
Oh yeah,
absolutely just goes up and up in the ratings for me.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but the start is Annie Haslam. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one, Henry Cow,
Oh, yeah.
Unrest. So for those who don't know Henry Cow, they're one of the founding members of the rock and opposition movement. If they only released 4 albums through their time together, this is the second of those albums. By this album, they were getting more edgy. The first album is more Legend or Legend, depending on how you read it, is a bit more Canterbury focused. This one is getting more into the avant and highly rehearsed elements. Still no Dagmar in the band yet. She doesn't join until the next album. So fully instrumental, but as a entry point into rock and opposition, this is probably one of the better albums to go explore, as it has a lot of the kind of traits that you would get in there without being too difficult to listen for those. So Henry Cow, Unrest, my last pick.
One of the few bands of that subgenre that I really dig.
You like them?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
I like Chuck's reaction.
I don't have an opinion. I mean, I've heard some of it. I've heard some. It's a little not my wheelhouse, but that one could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ian says that's the entry one. That's the one I should listen to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's a good entry point. It sums up a lot of the sorts of things that you'll hear if you explore more deeply across other bands.
Okay. I might download that then.
Well, Chuck already touched upon it, so I'll just kind of show it. Supertramp, Crime of the Century. This is one of those.
Perfect.
I got into them. What is it? Famous Last Words. Is that what the one?
Yeah.
I got that cassette through the what is it? Columbia.
Oh, the record.
Columbia House thing,
sure.
and because my friend had it on cassette, and I go, "Oh, that sounds good," you know. So when I joined the Columbia House, I ordered that, and then found out that they had stuff before, and I got into it. And then when I hit Crime of the Century, I mean, not only is this my favorite from 1974, I think it's my favorite from the band.
That's the best Supertramp album.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree.
That's
my favorite.
Yeah. I got into them from the Logical Song being a hit single off Breakfast in America.
That's a good
And
album too.
that was all over the radio, and I went and explored after that.
Well,
But
I'd heard that stuff because in high school, the cheerleader team, I forget, they did Logical Song, and I think they did
We Will Rock You.
Dreamer. Everybody did Dreamer.
Yeah, they did their, you know, the flags and whatever, you know, doing their cheers and shit. You know, it's like, okay, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know, that was a band, you know, I never heard to, and so I was like going, oh. And then when I got that Famous Last Words, you know, that song, It's Raining Again, you know, and I was like going, okay. I think that was what was it, Roger's final.
That was his last album. That I couldn't get along with that album at all. That's when they lost me. And then when after he left, they came back with Brother Where You Bound, which was that was a much rockier, heavier album. I like that one a lot more than Famous Last Words.
Yeah.
Famous Last Words was a pop album.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the band, and
the band's fantastic.
Yeah, hey, Quietest Moments is a great album too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Practice What Crisis is a good album as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. They had a good run of albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to avoid the debut. The debute's not very good, but
I agree.
once you get past the debut, and they got some money into them from the guy who supported them.
Now,
someone
said that the debut kind of sound a little kind of like what, The Doors or something. You know,
It just wasn't very good.
I listened to it once and that was it. I think.
Yeah, I think I've only listened to it once or twice.
I think you probably got it because of the cover.
Oh, I'm trying to remember that one. That must be the good one.
Is that the indelibly stamped? Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one. You know.
yeah.
That was the one band I knew about before I got a CD player, and that was I had Breakfast in America on 8-track, and
Oh, there you go.
yeah, so I definitely got into that band earlier, and including that album, even though I didn't own it.
That was one format I could not get into.
I never had any 8-track.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
All
dad
I
got an
could
8-track
use-
player as a present for
Yeah,
his
there you
time
go.
served at Loyola Academy.
Indelibly
Well,
Stamped
I
was the
got-
second album, not the first one. The first one was just called Supertramp.
And Mark also got Betamax.
I still
Yeah,
have 3 in the
and,
house.
3
Wow.
Betamax in
Well,
the
you know-
house.
we had a 8-track player, and I had a comedy album from Robin Williams,
Yeah.
Reality, What a Concept, and I just played that thing to death. And for a comedy album, it worked great on the 8-track.
Mhm,
For
right.
for music, some of the music stuff that not so much unless they were carefully edited. You know.
I mean, what are you going to do? Because you have a tape that's the same length. So it has to be like within a minute of the same length. Otherwise, you got dead air until it flips over.
Yeah, and it's like, but you get into, it's like, I don't remember what songs it were, but you get into the song and all of a sudden, click.
Yeah.
And it goes into, and it's like that click just kind of ruined the mood. You know, it's like, so I hated 8-tracks from that.
I
point on.
remember Helter Skelter, it has that fade out and a fade in. And then the fade out, it clicked, and then it faded back in, So in the middle of the song, it's just like, it's great ridiculousness. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was my final one.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Now go to Chuck's final.
Oh, it's our final one. Okay, I thought we were okay. Well, I do have a couple more here. So I'm going to go with this one because I have it ready, and that's these guys. I don't know if you let's see if I can get it up there. Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is their second album. Now, again, like everybody, I got into them with Don't Fear the Reaper because this came out the year before I really got into rock music. So I went back, that was beginning of 76, I think, and I went back in their catalog in their first 2 albums. This being the second one, and just a great album. Every song on here is pretty good. But back then, when you're trying to stuff that catches your ears, of course, I don't know about you guys, Astronomy and Harvester Revised were the ones that were on FM radio and just really caught. And then I went and saw them. A lot of people go to groups a million times. For me, it was huge if I went 3 times, which I saw Blue Oyster Cult 3 times on my no budget teenager budget, so
Right.
it was them and Kansas, who we talked about earlier, some of the groups I've seen the most. Styx.
Yeah, their first 2 albums were very raw, and then that one, Secret Treaties, came out.
That is, oh, you're right, Tyranny and Mutation. I forgot about that. Dang, that is a third album.
Yeah, and it's such a difference. I mean, it's just like this.
Yeah.
The first 2 ones had a garage bandish sound, and then
Right.
they kind of refined themselves by.
I do like them though. I do like them though,
Oh, yeah.
especially the debut album. I really like. But
Oh yeah,
when it came out with Agents of Fortune, then they blew up.
yeah.
So that's one. And real quick, I'll just mention Chicago 7. That was still Terry was still there.
Yeah.
Still playing good. I mean, obviously I was into the hit songs back then. So basically I've been listening to the songs, Happy Man and Searching So Long and all those songs. Yeah.
I got this one.
Yeah.
It has all.
But Chicago 7 went a lot of jazz, and I'm still not a
Yeah.
big jazz guy, but there's that stuff grew on me over time.
They were definitely worried about putting out that jazzy album, all instrumentals except for the last 2. I believe Lamb sung track 7, and
Right.
Cetera sung track 8. But it went to number 1 anyway.
Yeah. Got a lot of hits, 3 hits.
Okay. So my last one, and maybe somebody covered it, and somebody could help my pronunciation, maybe. Le Orma, Orma.
Yeah.
I say Leorme because in
Well,
Spanish you say the E.
I think
So
Ian
I
might
think it's the
have it.
same. I think it's Leorme, but I think each one's a
Okay,
syllable.
it's Italian. It means the footprints. For those of you trying to tell me that want to know how to pronounce it, they can maybe look it up. It was like the first album I had heard that was this RIP, right? The subgenre. Is that the right
Italian symphonic, whatever you want to call it.
RPI? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rock progressive Italiano, right? So, I got to see them live at a festival, and I just think that they set me up to like everything. Actually, maybe too much Italian prog, and you can hear the Genesis ref. Genesis went number one first in Italy, right? And you could just hear the one, like slightly deviate slightly from Genesis early album. There's a whole mess of albums and bands in Italy that wanted to make music like Genesis was making. This is one of them. It continues today in bands like Unreal City and what else is like Francesca in Shandu Priest Lost. I can't even think of the name of their. They're played in my house. Chuck, who the heck am I thinking of with
What are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about Unreal City? What?
Unreal City and her other band and
Oh,
Francesca's other band.
the was you got the Italian one and you got the instrumental one.
Yeah, the Shandu Priest is one of them. Lost.
Oh, you're talking, the other one. I'm like you. I'd have to look it up.
Gosh, but anyway, just there's a point to be made is that there's just so much great Italian progressive rock, and La Orme is one of my early loves of the subgenre of rock progressivo Italiano.
I've got 3 honorable mentions as my last ones.
Okay.
So, Dong You,
Oh,
the last of the Pothead Pixie trilogy with David Allen in the band.
That's
Classic
my
lineup
favorite.
with Pierre Miolon, Steve Hillage.
Yeah.
That's my
Absolutely
favorite.
classic space rock.
Yep.
I've got Pekka Pahola, the Finnish bass player from Wigwam, when he did a whole series of fusiony solo albums. This one is I'm going to butcher it because it's in Finnish. Haraka Balayon Poko. It's the one with a magpie on it.
Okay.
And then the last one is not prog at all, but is one of my favorite albums from the era. Leonard Cohen, New Skin for the Old Ceremony.
Nice.
So Mr. Cohen has a fantastic voice and a lovely grisly delivery of sad songs, and I love all this stuff.
Nice.
Well, I looked up Leorme and I listened to it just now.
Yeah.
And I'm wrong, I guess. I think you're right, Ian.
Leon?
One syllable instead of two.
Yeah, I think so.
Spanish.
Where
It's
I've heard
always,
it. I'm not an
Italian.
expert, but it's how other people have said it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right, since Mark came late, he can do his 5th one.
Okay. I think that was my 5th. Let me hang on 1 second. 1 second here. I do have it listed up here.
We got the order kind of out of whack, but that's all right.
Well, I was just gonna say Jethro Tull, War Child, right? That's 74?
yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah. So the title track is great. Another band that influences so many other bands that you don't even realize because the flute is so instrumental in their particular sound, but the songwriting lives on today in many progressive bands. I just happen to love that particular album, War Child, Queen and Country, Only Solitaire, a couple of my favorite tracks from that album, War Child.
Yeah. Glad you brought that one up.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of great stuff. I mean, obviously we got Ian with the more eclectic stuff, which we
I was fairly mainstream today.
You were.
Yeah.
Four of the 6 I love, or however many.
But it's kind of cool, for people out there that maybe haven't heard any of the titles that we talked about, and you like what you heard, go out and explore. And and if after you've explored, if you like it, go out and buy it so you can have a nice collection of CDs, or if you're into albums, if you can find the thing on an album, get it on vinyl, whatever, just, get it so you got it in your possession,
Right.
Or if you don't have the space in your house, download it to your phone, but make sure you got a backup copy of it, because if your phone takes a dump, so does everything else.
Yeah, and don't expect that these services that are around today will be around in the future, and don't expect the monthly fees to stay the same. So
Right.
think
right.
about that when you're out there streaming or
download it.
whatever. Although, like I said, the bands do still appreciate the streaming. Don't if you can't afford it, just you can stream it. It helps the band as well.
Yeah, I mean, stream it, but don't. But what I do is I buy the CD and I use the streaming as for convenience, because
Yeah.
who nowadays takes a stack of CDs in their car?
Yeah.
And most cars after, I think it was 2015, don't very few of them have CD players in them. They usually just have set up for for the USB, or they have satellite radio, or
Bluetooth your phone.
nowadays, or Bluetooth.
Or phone, like CarPlay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my 2012 Subaru has the Bluetooth capability, so it's like, but I use that as convenience.
Mhm. Right.
And then, of course, obviously everybody knows, of the bands. Also, you can buy their stuff on Bandcamp. Got different places to buy. So,
And here,
so
and here
basically-
are my CD changers.
No,
from
you've
my
got
car.
CD changes.
Yes, the Pioneer.
Yeah, I
6
used
CD
to have
Oh, yeah.
magazine.
I used to have a 50 CD changer in the boot of my car.
This is 18 Genesis CDs right here.
There you go.
So.
Probably
Yeah,
10
we used
you
to,
need.
we had in my very first new car that I bought was a 2004 Toyota Scion. It had a disc changer thing in it. All you just did was load it into 6
Yeah,
CDs.
that's what I had.
And that was just like, I was like, oh, cool, And then nowadays I load stuff onto one of these, and it's even cooler because I can hold much more, and depending on how much the thing is capable. I think they got now up to 128 gigabyte ones, or maybe 256. So you could probably put a good portion of your CD collection right onto there, and just bring it along with you. Where's your CD collection? Right here.
Yeah.
So
what year do we have next, Ron? What's going on?
Next year is 1979.
Oh,
good year.
And that's going to
Good year
be
for rock.
That's going to be
79.
on.
I already know one. It's going to be Disco Express from Blanco.
No.
All your
I
hits.
know.
Oh, your
No.
All you-
Rock Your Baby, and Yes We Rock the Boat's on here. Oh my gosh. Jungle Boogie. Wow. It's going to be an exciting.
Yeah.
episode.
That's going to be on February 10th.
Okay.
Very
I'm going to
good.
be doing those basically the second
won't be.
Saturday of each month.
Yeah,
I'm sure by
gonna
then
miss it.
Chuck's going to be playing.
I'm
golf.
gone. I'll be in California doing taxes.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
We'll see at April.
Well, I get more out than I should probably for the other stuff for shows,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I try to do as much as I can.
Okay.
Oh, Kevin says check your email.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
We good?
Must
yeah.
be a stack.
Hour
Yeah,
and 10.
we're
This is
done.
good. Yeah, no, cut it.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks again, guys.
Take care.
So
Good
I'll
night,
see you
guys.
next time.
All right.
All right. See y'all.